today I'm gonna try to highlight for you bourbons under $30. I'm gonna try to keep these at or around that $30 price point. I will make sure that not only are they kind of in that $30 price point, but more than 20. So I'm not gonna go, generally speaking, below that $20 price point. So there's a little bit of a range. And then finally, there's gonna be a plus minus of $5. So one way or the other. So if it's 30, if I document it at $30 and it gets to 35, this is where that plus minus kind of comes in. So why don't we go ahead and kind of get into these? I want to showcase or highlight a few bourbons that I think are worthy of, picking up in that $30 price points. All right, let's first start up with Evan Williams Single Barrel. This for me, coming in at definitely under $30, is a great daily sipping bourbon. Single barrel, a lot of times these range in ages from anywhere from about 6, maybe upwards of 8 years. It is proof down to 86.6 proof, but again, for an under $30 bourbon, you're getting a single barrel product. This is coming from Heaven Hill. So great everyday sipping type of bourbon. If you're kind of interested in the profile on this, a little bit more of that nutty characteristic. A lot of these are going to be fairly similar in terms of the general profile. So lots of vanillas, caramels, things along those lines, a little bit of spice on some of these. Some may have a little bit more than others. But again, this individual bottle, again, Evan Williams Single Barrel, this one was just shy of 7 years old. So again, really nice proof, or excuse me, really nice age on a bourbon. Again, proof 86.6 proof. Great place to start if you're kind of getting into bourbons or looking for something for somebody who is kind of new to bourbon. Great place to start right there. So Evan Williams Single Barrel. And this is going to be the Russell's 10 year. So first off, great age on this. Russell's, for me, one of my favorite lines. The single barrels, all of those things. But again, this coming in at 90 proof. Fantastic bourbon, very typical turkey or Russell's kind of profile. Lots of caramels, lots of vanillas, always a nice spice with wild turkey or Russell's. Very approachable, easy to drink. And again, a great aged bourbon for at or under $30. You cannot beat the Russell's 10. Okay, this little guy here, I realized that I didn't even have a full size bottle of the Maker's Mark. So again, a 90 proof bourbon. This is a wheated bourbon. So this is going to be the first bourbon in this lineup at under $30. This really, from a value, is just slightly above $20. This is probably in that $22 range. Again, a wheated bourbon, very approachable. This is tried and true Maker's Mark. This is their flagship, bourbon that they have and is available everywhere. So if you want something that's a little bit more sweeter, maybe a couple little more honey notes, still a nice little spice to it. Those vanillas, caramels, a lot of those. Absolutely great bourbon. So there you have it at 90 proof. That's going to be the Maker's Mark standard flagship bourbon. Four Roses small batch. For me, this is always a bourbon that does really well in blinds when you're in or at that 90 proof range. It's a sneaky good bourbon, offers a lot of those traditional bourbon kind of profiles, still has a nice spice. It always kind of factors in. I think it ultimately becomes a little bit more complex the longer this bourbon kind of works its way down in the bottle. So for a daily sipping bourbon at 90 proof, this for me is always one that ranks up there pretty high. So for anyone getting into or new to bourbon, this is a bottle that I tend to recommend to a lot of people because of its, versatility. It's just a great everyday sipping, bourbon, and it's one I, again, highly recommend. 1792 small batch. So this comes in at 93.7 proof, slightly higher than some of the others here. But again, this is a bit, for me, of an underrated type of bourbon. 1792, outside of their maybe full proof, things along those lines, I don't think gets enough either respect, and it's just not overly talked about that much. Generally speaking, these have really nice aged bourbons in them. So you got things that could be anywhere from 7 to maybe upwards of 10 years that are, blended within this small batch. So if you see the 1792, and again, you're looking for something to either sip on or to give to somebody new or being introduced to bourbon, I wouldn't hesitate to start with that 1792 small batch. Great bourbon, very easily, sippable, great flavor profile. So again, 1792 small batch. Elijah Craig small batch. There's not a lot you can say about it. Great bourbon, a little bit of citrus notes, nice spice. Again, these have some, generally speaking, little higher aged bourbons within this, this blend. So, could be 6, 8, 10-year, bourbons all kind of batched together to create the Elijah Craig small batch. So again, very tried and true. Every day, you know exactly what it is you're going to get. Fantastic bourbon. So no issues with having that as your daily sipper. Here is one of my probably absolute favorite sipping bourbons, the Old Forester 100 or the Old Forester Signature 100. A lot of people just refer to that as the Old Forester 100. This is probably, for me, one of those bourbons that has a little bit or slightly more kind of complex flavors to it. I think it offers maybe, if not the most out of all of these, very close. It's a great sipping bourbon. This offers a little bit more of those kind of amped up flavors. So you get a little more oak, a little more kind of heavier caramels, vanillas, a little more brown sugar on something like this. Great, great sipping bourbon. Slight chocolate notes at times on the Signature 100 as well. This bad boy right here, the Knob Creek 9-year 100 proof, this is probably going to be, again, this is one of those bourbons that may be slightly higher than $30, but at the end of the day, if it's plus or minus, $3, $4, $5, I wanted to make sure that this was in that category. So if you're here looking for bourbons at or under $30, this is still one I want you to consider. So that's the Knob Creek 9-year, comes in at 100 proof. It's an absolutely fantastic value for what it is you're getting. Again, 100 proof, age stated as 9 years, so we know that it's the minimum aged bourbon within that batch or that blend. So a great bourbon. A little bit of the Knob Creek, you have a tendency to get a little more of these nuttier flavors, more of like a peanut shell, something along those lines. But again, very heavy on the caramels, vanillas, things along those lines. Maybe even a little bit of a slight cinnamon note. So great everyday bourbon, and again, the value really starts to come in with what this is, but we'll see in some of the other videos I do that are going to be bourbons under 40 and under 50, what kind of value this bourbon ultimately ends up having. So next up, this bad boy is going to be one that's really hard to beat, and that's Wild Turkey 101. Again, an absolutely incredible daily sipping, versatile bourbon. It is one that is tried and true, classic. You get, again, all of those great, Wild Turkey flavors. Wild Turkey always has a little bit of a different kind of profile to it, meaning a little bit more of those kind of like nuttier characteristics on the 101. But again, always nice vanillas, caramels, things along those lines. Turkey, Russells, things like that, always has also a really nice spice factor to it. So if you're looking for something that has slightly or a little bit more spice to it, Wild Turkey 101 may be your favorite. Now, I mean, it ultimately could be your favorite daily sipping bourbon, whatever that may be. It offers an awful lot, huge value for what it is you're getting. Again, there's another bourbon that has those ranges from anywhere from 6 to maybe 8, 9, sometimes upwards of 10 years within that blend. So you can never go wrong with Wild Turkey 101. You can always find the 750 for under $30, maybe even the liter bottle for at or right around that $30 price point as well. So great bourbon, and one that I always try to have on hand. Old Granddad 114. This here is an absolutely fantastic bourbon. Again, comes in at the highest of proofs, 114 proof. This is probably the one out of this entire bunch that you might want to kind of just take it a little bit easy on. The proof has a tendency to kind of dominate on this one. Maybe some slight ethanol type of profile on this, you know, having to do a lot with the proof that's there. So again, if you're looking for bourbons that are approachable under $30, however, if you did buy something like that at 114 proof, less water in this, of course, but if you want to try to get into it, try some of those flavors, couple things you can do. You can always put it over ice, maybe add a cube, put a little bit of bourbon there over the ice. Try to bring down some of the proof on it a little bit, maybe reduce some of the heat. Or you can always add water, just a few drops of water may also open it up and allow for some different kind of flavors to come out as well. So that's a versatile bourbon from the standpoint of kind of playing around with it, you know, with its proof and seeing, you know, where is that going to kind of fall into a bourbon that you appreciate kind of sipping on. There are 10 bourbons that are at or around $30 that I think are great everyday sipping type of bourbons, and ones again that are going to be at or around that $30 price point. And thank you so much for tuning into another one of my reviews. If you'd like to follow me, you can on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those places at My Bourbon Journey. If you'd like to help support the channel and become part of the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club, check the link in the description below to my Patreon page. That will have all of the information there for you. So again, there you have it, bourbons at or under $30. Hopefully this helps, and remember, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers.